Hey everyone, how are we doing tonight? How are we feeling about this whole Epstein files mess? Talk about consuming the country. It's insane. And nobody come at me because I know nothing. So I'm just speculating like everybody else. So let's get into it. Do you remember when Pam Bondi said this?
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay, well, we'll check back with you.
The problem with that was that she basically insinuated that she had a list. That stack of papers on her desk must have slipped into the same black hole as Epstein's security footage. Because now, months later, the DOJ and the FBI, under President Trump, are saying that there is no client list. None. Never existed. Now, I'm not saying Bondi made all this up that just came out. But there are almost certainly files. I believe that. Probably mountains of them. But a clean little list. That might have been something invented way earlier or way later, even back when Biden was in office, as we'll talk about. Better yet, the people that were pulling Biden's strings. If they wanted to destroy Trump, all they had to do was say, here's the list, he's on it. But they didn't. Why? Maybe it's because it never existed. Now, the very people who couldn't be bothered for 4 years are suddenly sprinting into traffic to scream, Trump's a pedo. Really? Now you care. You had the keys. You had the files. You had the presidency. No, nothing for 4 years. Now that there's a narrative to milk, you're suddenly crusaders for justice. I'm going to walk you through what's real, what's theater, and what stinks. No Twitter meltdowns. No TikTok hysteria, just some facts pulled from the actual files, served up with a side of sarcasm. This is Stay in the Gray podcast, where nuance is not optional. It's July 23rd, 2025. Let's roll. So who was Jeffrey Epstein? Let's rewind for the folks who have only heard the name Epstein and hashtags or half-baked memes. Jeffrey Epstein was a billionaire financier, which is a rich guy code for nobody knows how he even made his money. He ran in elite circles. He hosted parties for presidents and princes, and somehow convinced half of Wall Street that he was legit. Behind the cashmere facade, he was a predator, a trafficker, a full-on industrial-scale pedophile, operating under the protection of power. In 2008, he got hit with state charges for soliciting a minor. It wasn't for multiple minors or trafficking, just a slap on the wrist. His sentence? 13 months in a cushy jail where he left during the day. Because hey, why ruin a rich man's golf schedule over a child rape charge, right? Fast forward, the real bombshells didn't even hit until 2019, when the feds finally got off their asses and arrested him on federal sex trafficking charges. Then, before the trial, he's dead in his cell. Rope, broken cameras, guards asleep. Just classic minimum security stuff. Now, enter in Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's partner, recruiter, fixer, groomer, whatever you want to call it, whatever word you want to use. Still doesn't quite capture how evil this woman is. She helped lure in underage girls. She normalized the abuse. She kept things running while Epstein enjoyed the perks. Her trial, that's where we got the flight logs, the photos, the testimonies, the connections. Presidents, celebrities, royalty, business moguls, you name it. Now let me be clear, not every name on those logs is guilty, contrary to what you hear. Some people just happen to fly on a plane, but some were, in fact, flying to a private island nicknamed Lolita Express. You do the math. So why does this matter now? Because the files were not fully released. Because the justice system barely touched this network. because victims still haven't seen justice. And because suddenly, we're all supposed to forget about it. Again, it's not happening. Nobody's forgetting about this. I'm on the side of let's focus on everything else, but this country has gone Epstein crazy. Now, if you think all that was bad, wait until you hear how the justice system wrapped this whole thing in a silk pillow and they let Epstein run off easy right before he mysteriously ended up dead in a cell. August 10th, 2019, Epstein is in federal custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He's awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. This time, the real ones. He's found dead in his cell. Cause of death? Suicide by hanging. Except this, the 2 guards who were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes, both asleep. Both of them. Their surveillance cameras outside his cell happened to malfunction that night. The logs from the night of his death were later revealed to be falsified. Nothing suspicious there. The official story is that he hung himself with a bedsheet. The unofficial, whispered, absolutely viral theory is that certain powerful people decided that Epstein talking was a bigger threat than Epstein dying. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say who might have wanted him silenced because I really don't know. Let's just say there were names in his black book that go way beyond creepy billionaires and disgraced royals, CEOs, politicians, foreign heads of state, Hollywood, tech, people who don't like daylight. Here's the thing. He should have never made it that far. He never should have been allowed back out in 2008. That plea deal wasn't just soft, it was criminal. If prosecutors had done their jobs back then, how many victims might have been spared? How many more girls were trafficked because Epstein was walking free? Plea deals were created to help overloaded courts, not to give pedophiles a get-out-of-jail-free card because their lawyer played golf with the prosecutor. We don't need reform on this. We need a flamethrower to the whole setup. So let's get back to this list. Pam Bondi said in February on national television, I just played for you, that the Epstein files were sitting on her desk. Naturally, the internet exploded. Everyone from MAGA to MSNBC to woke liberals assumed that meant a client list. Names, crimes, flight logs, maybe even a group photo titled Annual Pedo Picnic 2003. Maybe a spreadsheet labeled Who We Trafficked and When, Final Draft. But files on a desk doesn't actually mean guilt in a PDF. It could have been photos, depositions, flight logs with no context. There was never confirmation that Bondi or anyone had a clean-cut list of names and crimes. That was assumed, and it was wanted and maybe pushed a little harder than it should have been. What's even more infuriating, the DOJ and FBI now say flat out, there is no list. Nothing official, nothing being prepped for release. But buried inside those same statements is something wild. Over 300 gigabytes of sealed evidence tied to Epstein's operation still exists. You heard that, 300 gigabytes. That's not one folder, that's servers. So what's in it? Well, no one's saying. There's no timeline for release. There's no commitment to transparency on this. Not even a vague breakdown. Could be chat logs, photos, and transaction records. Could be garbage, could be gold. For the government to say there's nothing here while also sitting on that much sealed data, it's like telling us the kitchen's closed while we can smell the steaks grilling in the back. We don't need a list. We don't need the list. We just need access. We just need transparency. Let's be real. If there ever was a list with Trump's name on it, Biden's team would have dropped it like it was radioactive. They would have put it on a postal stamp and called it the Justice Forever collection. You think the DNC, after years of screaming about Russian P-tapes and democracy dying in darkness, would have sat on verified Epstein client list? Please. They would have printed it on bumper stickers, so why didn't they? Well, there are 3 options. 1, the list didn't exist. 2, the list exists and Trump's not on it. And 3, the list exists and too many powerful liberals are on it. So it's staying locked up in the vault next to Hillary's email server and Hunter's deleted iCloud. Trump says the list itself may have been a setup cooked up by Biden's DOJ or someone further up in the puppet chain. Critics say he's deflecting, of course, but honestly, I don't think that theory is crazy, as some do. Not when we've watched the same institutions hide, redact, delay, and spin every piece of information with political value. So again, if it existed and Trump was on it, why didn't they leak it in 2021 or 2022 or before the midterms? The answer is either they couldn't or they knew it would take down their side also. Hell, maybe it never existed at all. Whatever the truth is, the silence only makes it smell worse. So here we are. There are no client lists. That hasn't stopped the liberal pundits from calling Trump an actual literal pedo. They love to do that. They love to name call without any substance or evidence. Their logic is he must have been on the list, right? We just don't know for sure. Well, let's unpack it. There's no list. Bondi clarified. The DOJ, FBI confirmed it. Yet the narrative rolled on. They have no proof. Number 2, zero proof. Speculation wrapped in outrage and hate. And number 3, this is hypocrisy at its finest. These same voices shrugged off Epstein and the possible list when power players were supposedly on those files from their side. And now, they're all in on Trump. Let's take MSNBC's Joy Reid. She's been a return guest on my They Really Said That Grievous Games episodes. She actually said the people are waiting for confirmation that Trump was on the list, even though nobody saw a list. Or let's think about the Atlantic's Molly Ball, who mused that Trump was tainted because he knew Epstein, but admitted there was zero proof of anything. Meanwhile, the same folks who were radio silent when Epstein's black book showed celebrities, bankers, global elites, they're now shrieking pedo, all because he told them there is no list. Trump's presidency is doing great things. I understand that there are many of you that pretend that that's not true. It is. Tariffs are working. Jobs are up. Wages are up. Inflation is down. Investments into the U.S. from foreign countries and trade deals. Japan, check that one out if you haven't looked already. That just happened yesterday. Everything's trending in his favor. Immigration, deportations, safety. Yet the Democrats are stuck trying to smear him with no evidence. It's a tired pattern. When your team hits rock bottom, you either fix policy or you point at fantasy scandals. Guess which path they chose and continue to choose. While MAGA and independents tune out the noise, the liberals are locked into pedogate headlines, and it's just another distraction from their failures. It's really pathetic. Now, just as the left is climbing over each other to call Trump a pedo, his own base is admittedly becoming strangely fractured. Some Trump supporters are demanding transparency. Others are steaming mad that he and Bondi shrugged off the whole thing. From far-right voices like Dan Bongino, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon, they all demanded transparency from him. But then, Trump called inquisitive supporters weaklings. Ouch. The same base that crucifies the media for fake news now gets dismissed by its own leader. A recent Politico analysis says there's a clear split in MAGA. Some demand proof, and others are sticking with Trump's hoax line, and it's creating a credibility fracture among what was once a solid bloc. CNN's Harry Enton even reported that while only 3% of Americans are satisfied with how much was released in the Epstein case, 88% of Republicans still back Trump despite this. Yet within the MAGA sphere, many are upset. You can be upset and still back the president at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. Prominent figures like Laura Loomer are blasting back. and Politico confirms that Republicans are split over Trump's handling of this, especially among those who are most conservative. But again, when he slammed folks demanding files as weaklings and called the Epstein uproar a hoax, concocted by the Democrats, no less, it didn't sit well with supporters who believe that transparency is a part of Trump's brand. Here's reality check time, though. Check this out. Quinnipiac, say that right, polls show only 40% of Republicans approve of how Trump handled the Epstein files. That's no surprise. 36% disapprove, 24% don't know. So either way, could be a swing with those who don't know. But his overall GOP approval remains high at 88%, and that's CNN, SSRS, and 89% in Quinnipiac. I've seen it at 90, 91% in other sources as well. So that means the base is still loyal, but there's a crack in that foundation, and one that should be caulked ASAP. So what do we make of this? This isn't a sideshow. MAGA support is built on unity and unwavering trust in Trump delivering transparency in action. That's what he does. But when he berates his own base and retreats, he's not just losing applause. He's weakening the foundation of the movement. Yes, despite outrage over Epstein, Trump's broad approval numbers haven't budged. But griping Republicans could bleed into apathy or third-party hangs. That's dangerous, and that sets us up for one final truth check. Before we wrap, let's knock out two quick topics that the media keeps spinning circles around. First, this idea that Trump's in photos with Epstein, so he must be guilty. Proximity does not equal guilt. Yes, there are photos. Yes, they were in the same social circles at times. But that doesn't prove involvement in anything criminal. You could be standing next to a predator at a fundraiser and not know what they do behind closed doors. And if we're going to start throwing guilt by association around, then half of Hollywood, Wall Street, and Capitol Hill better lawyer up. Do optics matter? Of course they do. Repeated connections, private flights, shared events, they raise eyebrows for sure. But eyebrows do not equal evidence. Finally, this just happened. The Roy Black situation that we all heard. He's the lawyer who negotiated Epstein's original 2008 plea deal. Great job. The one that basically let him walk with daily work release after trafficking minors. Well, this guy just died at 80 after a long illness. And of course, some corners of MAGA lit up. I'll admit, immediately I was starting to think it's a cover-up. Another one is silenced. I think we should cool that. Cut that, boys. I had to wipe my mouth. We need to cool it. I'm not defending this guy's legacy at all, but let's not pretend the man got offed because he sneezed too close to the truth. He was 80, a defense lawyer, and dying. There are real things to question in this case. This, I don't think, is one of them. But hey, who am I? I've been wrong before. So what are we left with? No list, no closure, just 300 gigs of sealed government data and a bipartisan game of, wasn't me. Bondi's walking it back, the DOJ's acting like it never existed, Trump's calling his own supporters weaklings. And liberals who swore there was no list under Biden are now drooling at the chance to use the imaginary list as a political weapon. It's a circus with no ringmaster, just finger pointing, memory loss, and a whole lot of sealed folders. Meanwhile, the public's stuck in the same place we've always been, wondering if the truth will ever come out, wondering who's being protected, and wondering if the people screaming the loudest even want justice or just attention. Here's the reality. We don't need hysteria. We just need answers. Being patient isn't weak. It's hard, it's frustrating, it's maddening even. But sometimes patience is the only weapon you've got, when people in charge are betting you'll forget. Because Epstein's secrets did not die with him, I don't believe, and they sure as hell didn't die with Roy Black. They're sitting on government servers behind legal red tape and God knows what kind of non-disclosure agreements. And we're just supposed to move on. That doesn't seem to be happening in this country. We just want transparency, I think, not another trust us. We want truth. We don't want TikTok theories. We want justice, and even if it makes every party, every billionaire, every legacy media figure clinch. That's it. I hope this caught you up if you didn't quite know what all this was about. I mean, everybody knows that Epstein is not a good dude and knows there was sex trafficking in children and all these things involved. But if you didn't know some of the details, hopefully that's enough for you to follow the story and demand accountability. Nobody with a soul or a heart wants to see children hurt. And this man and anybody involved needs to be held accountable. So thanks for listening. I hope it caught you up on the Epstein mess. It's really all you need to know. And it was wrapped in a little 20-minute bow. So stay focused, stay questioning, stay patient, live your life, stay in the gray. Love you guys.